Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. If it's your first time, I see a lot of new faces. We take about 20 to 30 minutes and we go over set topics for the evening, but we also give this as an opportunity to see your teammates, to come in, ask some questions, to hear from us. A lot of the coaches typically get on and, you know your coach, but you like to hear from the other coaches, kind of their explanations of things that you might be going through in your training. So as I go through the topics, please feel free to type it in the chat, and that is how we get to them as we go. And please don't hold back on any questions you may have. So to get started for tonight, we have a couple topics we want to cover, but I thought I'd go over gear because it is Black Friday week. And now is a good opportunity for us to get some of the gear that we might have been waiting to get. And we just want to talk through some of the benefits of various gear. So I thought I'd quickly go through swim, bike, and run. And the bike being an area where we can make a lot of small improvements. I've just been going through this with a lot of my athletes that we typically don't like to make those changes in the season because it requires an overhaul of bike fit, but now could be the opportunity to make those changes. And we'll talk about why. So the swim gear, I mean, really what you're looking at is you have your kickboard, you have your buoy, you have your fins. Now here is where you might want to consider the other fins versus what you have now. There's short fins, there's long fins. And really the difference is we recommend long fins for beginner athletes. It doesn't require as much effort to get going and get that buoyancy to move you across the pool as you're practicing your form. However, because it's so flexible and there's so much surface area on the long fins, it does slow down your natural rhythm of your kick. And so as you are more advanced, they say that the shorter fins are better, but also know that it's going to burn your legs out more, but you're able to kick a lot quicker to match your natural style of the kick when you're swimming. So I know a lot of pro athletes that have both. They use the long fins when they're just trying to swim easy and warm up, but then they use the short fins when they don't want to kick with no fins, and then they have the benefit of getting the same gains from that piece of equipment. The other piece of equipment we have on our manual is Aquavallo mitts, and what they are, they call them sensory mitts, and it's basically this netting around your hand. And what it does is it really helps develop a good feel for the water. And you would put them in your lead up set of a workout. And it does. When you put it in, it honestly feels awful at first. It's just like this drag around your hand. But then when you take it off your hand, and you feel like you have a better grip and feel for the water. So those are something at a very low cost that you can add to your workout. And then this one, I would recommend for more of our advanced or competitive athletes. And they're the Aquavallo socks. And what they are it's like a parachute. It's drag on your ankles. And what you would do is, again, in the lead up set, you would put it on your ankles and it would be really hard to swim with it. And so we have athletes kick with them or swim with them, really emphasizing the kick. And then you take the socks off and then you're on top of the water because you don't have that drag. Again, it's just like a parachute at a very low cost. Same company, Aquavallo, and we do have a discount code. And then the final piece of equipment that we have utilized with some athletes, it's called the brick. And it's a kickboard that is literally, it sinks to the bottom of the pool. And you have to hold it and out front. And what it does in order to keep it afloat as you kick is you really have to engage your core. And it really teaches you to have that correct stiffness in your body. And so again, as part of the lead up, kicking 25s with fins and then without fins, using your Aquavallo mitts, using the drag socks, and then you take all those pieces of equipment out, it essentially makes you a better swimmer without drilling. Okay, it's use of equipment that helps re-engage and reinforce the right technique for swimming. Okay, I see there's a question coming in. Is one style fin better for ankle mobility over the other? So they do say that the long fins is better for ankle mobility versus the shorter fins. The shorter fins are just an extension further than your toes, right? And the long fins really do focus on you having more flexion in your foot. Okay, good. So that's on the swim side. Again, any coaches, if you want to jump in on experience, I'm looking at Lauren who's on my feed, and she's had experience of all of these items, and she's like nodding her head like these things work. On the bike, this is the biggest area of investment, and a couple things that we've been going through. We've talked about your saddle is just not comfortable, but you didn't make the move on adjusting your saddle because of how it implicates changing your fit, etc. Now is a good time to change your saddle. You should be very comfortable, ideally through the course of an Ironman, 5-6 hour ride. If you are not, you might need to look at a varying saddle, and we can give you some options on that. But typically we find the one with like the nose, the cut in the nose, that is more comfortable than ones without. Crank length, this is always a discussion we have with a lot of our athletes. Your standard crank length is 172.5. And we typically have moved a lot of our athletes to a 165, and in some cases shorter crank length. And what that does, many benefits, but one of the big reasons we do that is opening up your hip angle, because when you pull your saddle up, because you're not reaching as far, and your knees are now not coming, you're not having to reach as far down, but that also means your knees are not coming into your chest as much as with a longer crank, but allows you to open up your hip angle, allows you to lessen the dead spot of the stroke. You know, a lot of people have really good push down on the stroke, but as they're pulling back, maybe they can't engage their hamstrings and pull around the back of the pedal stroke. And when you're shortening that amount that you have to pull around the back, it's a lot easier to pedal. So we initially see a higher cadence because of it. We can improve our aerodynamics because of it. You're lifting the saddle, you're dropping the bars. What other benefits of a shorter crank length? Any of the coaches want to jump in? I feel like there's 5 or 6 others. We have found people who have their hips rocking side to side is because they're really reaching. And as soon as we get in them on shorter crank lengths, that actually helps as well. Again, jump in, any one of the coaches, please do.
Also
go
back
ahead.
pain.
Yes.
I think a shorter crank will help with back pain for some people. So worth a try if you have back pain. I've been there.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree on that. I was the exact same way. I said, stop that rocking, stop that reaching. But, you know, a lot of back pain is tied to your hip pain and your hip being so tight. And so if we can open up the hip angle because of the shorter crank, it is going to lessen up the pain in the back. It's something we're working with one of my athletes is the float on their pedal. They recognized that there was a lot of side to side float. And there's varying degrees of float based on the level of the athlete, with 0% being there's no like side to side movement, but you then have to be a very proficient cyclist, with more beginner athletes having a little more side to side movement and it being up to like 9 degrees. And we find most of our athletes thrive like right in the middle, 4.5 degrees. So that is just something to look at, just little items. Sure, most of you have gotten a bike fit, but if not, now is the time to go do a bike fit. Even if you've done a bike fit before, your mobility changes, maybe your goals change, etc. You are always looking to dial that in for added aerodynamics and see what changes are being made. A lot of our athletes are bringing the bars up closer to the face now, close up the pocket of air in front of them. There's a lot of, I'd say, new things being done every year, I find, where athletes are advancing their aerodynamics that we just didn't even know about a year or 2 ago. As a lot of you have seen, like people are sticking water bottles down their fronts as a means to close over that pocket of air. So go find a good quality bike fitter during this time right now, so you have time to get used to it. Got a question coming in. How do you know if you need to get a new crank length? A bike fitter is going to tell you. That's the best way. You know, yeah, I would say see what you have right now. For the most part, we have never gone wrong with an athlete going shorter than 172.5. How much shorter now, that is a good bike fitter is going to tell you, because we have some athletes on 155, right? But the majority are between at around 165. Okay. Okay. So that's it on the bike. Now's a good opportunity. Oh, we had this situation in Florida, running out of gears. And so we have athletes changing out, you know, cranks, not cranks, but cassettes and chain rings, etc. Also your chain stretches while you travel, while you train, not travel, but you need to go have that tested by a bike shop. They have a tool to see if your chain is stretching, and you can, and that definitely reduces resistance if you have a correct chain that you're using, and it should be changed out quite frequently depending on how much you are riding. Okay. Shoes is a great opportunity to try different shoes. We've talked about this in prior, and maybe Charlie could jump on here and talk about, is Charlie on this call? I think I saw him. Charlie, if you want to tell us all the different shoes. How many pairs of shoes do you rotate between? And is there a certain kind of like, yeah, track workouts, tempo workouts? Are you using a different shoe for all? Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So pretty standard for me is I'm going to have a minimum of like 2 or 3 trainers that I rotate. So just on easy days, just to switch it up. They're typically going to be very, 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 very similar support. Like right now I got the Cloud Monster, Kayanos, Cloud Stratuses, then the Rad R1. That's just, I'm kind of rotating those 4 right now. Very standard shoe, easy days. And then for workouts, I'll typically have like a Vaporfly, or also like a pair of the A6 Metaspeed Sky Plus, for track sessions, tempo sessions. And then sometimes I'll go like typically for long runs, I'll do that as well. So that's just to keep it really, really, really simple. But there's definitely different shoes where you can wear, if you're getting on the track one on quicker, you could add spikes. You could go just like a lower stack super shoe. So you won't have as much cushion. It'll be a little more aggressive plate, but to keep it standard, just kind of a daily trainer, a couple daily trainers, and a workout shoe. And then obviously like a race day shoe as well. And I like to keep that brand new, fresh. So with Black Friday and sales, typically you'll see some discounted shoes, and great time to get, Vaporflies or, whatever pair of shoes you want, because they're usually $250 plus. So if you can snag 20% off, save some cash. So
yeah, I want to speak to the shoes, the race shoes, like he just mentioned. A lot of the top athletes, they are doing their hard track workouts, their tempo runs in a race shoe. And so it's like you get these nice shoes for race day, you use it a handful of times. You want to keep them fresh, so you end up getting another one. You don't go usually beyond like 100 miles or so. And then you transfer that shoe into a workout shoe. Is that correct in saying that or no?
Oh, spot on. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just use an example. So my marathon, like a month ago in October, brand new pair of Vaporflies, like fresh out of the box, didn't do anything in them. The first time I put them on was race day. And then building up for my most recent race, that was my workout shoe. Then for the race, I had a brand new pair of Alpha Flies. So literally first time I put them on was 5 minutes for the race, 10 minutes for the race, a couple strides and race start. So want that foam as fresh as possible.
And I wouldn't recommend that if you have never worn them before. You need to know what they're going to feel like. And so we typically have our athletes running them once or twice before. I've always, when I was getting used to these kind of shoes, I would wear it for like one run and then like one long run to understand like how my my feet respond to it in a long run. But once you know what shoe works for you, then what he just said, like you want them fresh. And then what I find a lot of the athletes do is they'll show up. If you show up to a track workout, you'll actually show up and you'll wear your regular trainer for the warm up, because you want to have as many miles as possible on this nice shoe that are $250 plus. They put their shoes on, their nice shoe on for the track workout. Then they take off that shoe and then they do their warm down miles on like the regular trainer again. So again, if you do invest in these nice shoes, which there's massive benefit to, you get a lot of confidence from running in them in these workouts, extend the life in them by just keeping them for the speed. Is that correct to say?
Yeah. I mean, I do every single workout is warmed up in trainers, the even drills in my trainers. Then if I do any strides, then I put them on, start the workout in them, shoe change again for the cool down. So that's every workout. So
there you go. Awesome. Okay, guys, if there's any more questions on gear, as far as like you're thinking about getting something this next Black Friday, please type it in the chat and we can give some advice to it. And then also we will be sending out a list of all our partners and their sales so that you have that and can take advantage of their sales they're having this week. And then Parker Kurth wrote, tip for tracking distance on shoes. You can add them as a gear in Strava or in Garmin. Yeah, that's a great tip, Parker. I appreciate that. I also always write the date on my shoe, so I remember like, when did I start wearing this shoe, as I rotate through them. And then Braden wrote, when's the next run of Tri Kits going to be? So we have some new sweatshirts. We're going to have a polo shirt, which nice soft material from this company here in Austin. It will be 1 week to order this next week, and then you'll get it a week later. Soft t-shirts and a zip-up hoodie. But then the actual Tri Kits, we are changing the design completely for next year. And so we are just affirming all of that. And then it will probably be first week of January, so you guys get it in time for the 2024 season. So be on the lookout for that. You'll want to see kind of the new design we have coming out. And then Joe, what was the name of the swimming gear vendor? Aquavalo. Aqua, I'll type it in the myths, Aqua, and it's also in the manual with a discount code. Amazon sells pretty much everything you need. Yeah, you can find it there. But Aquavala has the mitts, the socks, and the brick. I think it's on its own website. Okay, guys, we're going to switch. We're just going to talk for 10 more minutes. And again, coaches, if you want to jump in, off season, we touched on some off season ideas, but I want to speak specifically to some block training. What does block training mean? It means that you've decided to zone in on one of the 3 disciplines or 4 disciplines, be it swim, bike, run, or strength, to really facilitate improvement and an adaptation that will not necessarily occur when you're balancing it out with all the 3 other sports. So we typically bring it into the forefront when an athlete has a clear weakness or it's a clear limitation from their reaching their goals for 2024. And now is the time to do it when you don't have to focus on the other 2 sports and having to perform at a race. So we see it across the board. I'd say speak to the run quickly. We don't often see run specific blocks because what it is typically is a overload of what we've been doing, and you can only increase the volume by a certain percentage without risking injury or getting risking injury or burnout, whatever, on the run specifically. The run is the place that you can get injured the most. So where we can focus on the run by pushing it to the forefront of your day. You want to be better at something, you do it while you're fresh, while you focus, and you can do it in that manner. And then I would say if you did want to do a run focus, just be really smart with you and your coach in how much volume you increase, both in volume per week, volume per long run, and then intensity per session, and get with them on that. I don't know, Charlie, did you want to speak to that? So I'm looking at you, and so that's why I'm calling on you.
No, you're good. I mean, just in regard to, like you said, like specializing or like doing that first, like 100%. And like you hit it too. It's like, it's very hard to go from like an Ironman block into a run block. It's your chance of getting injured does go up. So that's probably just the one ad that I would have there for sure.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so going to the other 2. So the swimming, we see massive gain when an athlete does a swim block, because typically we get stuck swimming when most of us are swimming 3 times a week, we hit a roadblock of improvement. And when we do see athletes kind of swim even 2 weeks, 4 or 5 days a week, just that little bit more, and they swim first thing in the morning when they're fresh, we see their numbers and drop down. So maybe you're swimming 130s, now you're swimming 125s, and you're able to then hold on to it as you bring back the bike and the run later. So I would definitely say if a swim is a weakness or you're not seeing the progression you want, approach your coach in having you swim 4 to 5 times a week or more if your shoulders can handle it. And so that's the big thing too. When we add this volume that we're not used to, it is harder on the body. And so you have to do all the little things right so that you do not get hurt during this process. And that is some added rolling out and stretching before your swim workouts, maybe some supportive strength workouts. You're thinking like rotator cuff exercises, etc. But they're extremely effective. And the same thing goes for the bike. Biggest thing is your fueling through if we had to do a bike block. Okay. We find great benefit from the bike that actually ends up advancing the run as well, because we can do these VO2 max sessions on the bike, recover from them, do them again with minimal impact on our body. And we find that VO2 work really crosses over well. Same thing in the swim, to be honest. When you're doing sprints in the pool, it crosses over well into your other 2 disciplines. But talk to your coach about that. Know that if you do go into a block focus, be okay skipping your swim. Just let's say a bike block, be okay skipping swims or runs because you're tired. Be okay not even looking at the clock and just going much slower so that you are fully fresh for the focus that you are wanting to improve upon. Too many times they get wrapped up in, hey, this is in the back, I'm not improving here. Well, that was not the goal for that period of time. Okay. Coaches, Lauren, did you want to add anything to that?
Not really. I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean, I guess like when I did swim camp, I really focused on that, and it was just swimming twice a day. I barely ran. I didn't have my bike with me, and it was really a big deal to like have that, just focus on swimming, not having all the fatigue from running and biking. And then when I came back, I hadn't lost anything, so it was worth it. So it's good to be able to just like focus on one thing when you're on in a block.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I've done multiple swim blocks, and I actually came back fresher for the bike and the run. My legs felt amazing after having done so. Where you think you're now going to lose something, just rather go all in. Guys, the last thing I'm going to speak to, it's the holidays. Make sure you're really communicating with your coaches at this period of time. Go into Training Peaks, mark off your availability of when you're available to train. We have some athletes on here that they will say exactly like, these are the days I can get to the pool. I only have an hour. And that is just to balance out your lifestyle during this time and not stress about it otherwise. And then I'm just going to stress, like, if you have more stress in the family and work life, like, it's okay to back off on your training. Usually when we see athletes really push through this time, we get to January, February, and we're burnt out and we're in a bad spot. So I'd rather just make sure to listen to your schedule. And so we can hit the ground running January 1st. I don't know what else. Does anyone have any other questions? Those were the big things I wanted to talk to today. How much pumpkin pie is too much, Brandon? I am a big believer, enjoy yourself a little bit. With that being said, I also know how much it affects my energy levels the next day. And so I think it's varying for everybody. I'll give you an example. I had a glass. I haven't been drinking like for the last couple of months. I had a glass of wine last night. I was like, no problem. And I slept the worst I've ever slept. Ran this morning, felt terrible. I was like, never doing that again. So I think it's like, what are the benefits versus the negatives after the fact, and it is what it is. I don't personally do well eating too badly over the holidays. I like to feel good and feel energized, and I know bad food doesn't make me feel good, but others need to kind of have that outlet so they can be focused come January 1st. So it's up to you. Okay. If no other questions, guys, we're going to call it. Guys, have a happy holidays this week. If you, we won't have a call next week, but do know that December 3rd, the week after, we have the lead. I don't know if you know this, Charlie, because he works at NVDM, but the lead researcher, Lat Mansur, he's coming on. So everyone knows about ketones, right? And the science hasn't been spoken to a ton over social media, even though it's out there. So we're bringing on the lead researcher from Ketone, IQ, HVMN, that's going to come and talk about where did this come from? Why are people using it? So I would say definitely tune in for that one. Okay. And then we have one more. Just curious when we get more info on the training camps. Yes, that is on me, Vincent. So training camps, we have one in March. We've set the dates. We have one in July. I can speak to right now that the camp in March is going to be in the Austin area. And so you'll get a really good insight into where the group trains in Austin, how the group trains in Austin, and be in that environment for 4 days. And then, Swift announcement. Thank you. And then the camp in July, it's in West Texas. So it's a scenario where you either you fly into Austin and then you carpool with others out to West Texas, which is 6 hours away. So be prepared for that. Or fly into El Paso, rent a car, and it's 2 hours away with a time change. However, it's amazing camp. It's our favorite one. It's a whole week, Tuesday through Sunday. We bike 100 miles. You have the capability of doing so on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. We do a time trial of 100K. Some people bike longer. And then outside of that, we have runs and swims and strength every day. It's just like full day of training. Very relaxed. We really just like to go out and train like professionals for a week. And then there's tons of food. It's almost like a food and wine tour around the training as well. But it's just a really great time in the middle of nowhere. And we stay in a dorm where we all stay together. So it's like you're staying in a university. You have your own room with another person's room next to it, and you have an adjoining lounge. And then there's a room for all of us together that's just loaded with food at all times. And what we find is you're either training or everyone's just hanging out in that room, connecting. And then every night we go out to dinner. So it's a really special time. And Austin will be pretty packed as well. And we'll get that information out this week. And then Zwift, thank you, Andrew, for asking. So very exciting announcement. We will have an official Zwift workout on Tuesday and Thursday. It will be 6 a.m. Central for anyone to be a part of. So as of right now, we could only do it through the club, and we could not actually create workouts. It was just events that we could create, but now we can actually create workouts and events, and it will be us, but also open to the public. But it's a way for us to come together and do these key workouts together, which I'm honestly super excited about. So we're doing the paperwork this week, and my hope is that by December, this will be an option for you guys to join on Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. So guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We won't see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you the week after. Bye, you guys.